Through the chair, I'd like to switch focus a little bit. I have a different question for maybe staff and the applicant. I'm looking at Google Map, and it is a question that will come back to the fire topic, but I'm looking at a Google Map in Village Court. Is that a city-owned public right-of-way?
Yes, I believe since 1969 it was dedicated, but not improved.
Okay. And I'm looking at Google Map, and Village Court is actually a two egress ingress into the parcel. So there's a northern side by the Cupertino Hills Swim and Racket, and then there's the egress in the middle of the parcel, I guess, which is what the proposed project shows. Is that your understanding?
The Village Court, that is the city right-of-way, is literally just the cul-de-sac that goes in. Pretty much what you're seeing on the site plan, that's what was dedicated, not the sort of, it looks like a U shape on Google where it cuts to the north and then comes back out. There's only the one entry point that goes into the site.
So we're saying what we're seeing on a Google map with the Village egress at 2 points out of the parcel is inaccurate?
Yeah, I'm uncertain where Google got that because it was just dedicated as a cul-de-sac, really one way in and out. I think it's fair to say that the development as proposed is taking what was dedicated and improving it.
Are there any attachments from staff that would confirm that?
None in tonight's presentation, but we did look into this as we went through the housing element.
I would want to make sure, is that a public right-of-way? I understand you're saying there may not be an egress there, but is that a public right-of-way in that northern part of the parcel?
No, there is no public right-of-way there.
Okay, so there's no vacation required?
No, we're not going to be going through that process again anytime soon on this. I can't really explain why Google shows it the way it does, but the dedication for the street, again, goes back to 1969, and it was just kind of a classic cul-de-sac.
Okay. I'd like to segue to a different line of questioning. Are we able to do that? Okay, thank you.
I had one more question for the fire marshal. Thank you for your patience. So were you able to come to an answer on the mitigations and whether they cumulatively bring us back to 30 feet? And or, research around that would be really helpful.
Yeah, so again, using the building and residential codes as a reference based on the type of construction for these homes, a 1 hour exterior is consistent with what is required for going down all the way to a 0 lot line, essentially. So the proposal by the applicant would be consistent with that. In addition to all of the other home hardening features that were already mentioned that are required under what was formerly Chapter 7A, now it's in the Wildland Urban Interface Code. So we feel that in combination with both passive and active fire protection and all of the WUI requirements, that the structures are resilient to wildfire.
Okay, thank you. Is there research around that is publicly available? The 0 feet for a 1 hour rated wall?
So I am, you can look at the building code or residential code, and there's specific sections in there that specify when you have to rate the walls based on separation from property line and based on the type of construction.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Commissioner Rao, you wanted to?
Yeah, I'd like to segue out of the fire discussion into a different topic really quickly. Is there any sort of understanding about the egress through the Cupertino Hills? Is that an option? Has staff looked at that?
You're referring to the trail connection that was offered?
Well, emergency egress would need to be automotive.
I'm not familiar with the emergency egress on this. I don't know if that's something you could speak to, or if that would be, I realize Brad just sat down.
Okay. Okay, very good. We won't have Brad come back. I'm going to segue to a different part here. So have the tribal consultations occurred?
Yes, they have occurred.
Any feedback or anything else?
Defer to you.
So we had consultation with one of the local tribes, and they indicated that they did have some concerns relating to monitoring as well as education of the workers regarding the sensitive cultural resources that may be on site. However, we were not able to come to a decision on the wording of certain conditions to reflect that prior to the end of that consultation period. And so the standard language, which does include requirements for monitoring during project construction, was included as part of this resolution that you have. And then the city also does have requirements for education of workers prior to commencement of any work on the site.
So does the AB 130 deadline extend if the tribal consultation is still pending?
So the tribal consultation isn't pending because the consultation period ended. AB 130 outlines very specific deadlines that they would also need to meet when participating in consultation. And as that has concluded, we then move on to the kind of approval and or decision-making process for that.
Yeah, and so I just want to clarify. So the tribes themselves get 60 days, is that right?
Right. So they get a 45-day consultation period with a 15-day extension.
And when did their notification start?
I would have to look back at my notes to check when that all started.
When did the tribal consultation end?
I believe it ended in January. I'm trying to think back here. Yeah, early January. Either January 4th or 6th, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay. Switching to a different
January
area.
6th, just to confirm, January 6th was it, when the period ended.
When the tribal consultation ended with no feedback.
Well, I think we had the feedback.
Again, with no decided upon or agreed to
Okay.
conditions.
Thank you. And then has there been any incomplete notifications to the applicant so far on the application? Is there any?
So the project was reviewed for its completeness, meaning it had provided all of the items listed on our application, and that happened within the first 30 days of us receiving the application. We then reviewed a second submission that did address all of the items that are on our application checklist, and then it moved into a consistency review, and that identifies the objective standards within our general plan, BMR housing manual, as well as our zoning code that apply to the project. And so we went through multiple rounds of review for that. And by the end of it, we found that the project was consistent. And I believe that that matrix that we used to identify all those objective standards was included as, I want to say, attachment 5.
So staff have not had any application incompleteness in this project?
So again, it was determined incomplete when it first came in, but then they provided all the information to make it a complete application.
Okay. Has the application been materially revised? Has there been a material revision of the application that would reopen the AB 130 window?
Oh, so not from when we assessed the project under the AB 130 criteria. No changes have been made.
Okay. So at this point, so April 4th is the deadline for approval, and this goes to City Council on?
March 17th.
Okay, and so effectively we are looking at either we are done with Planning Commission today, or we're going to have special meetings if it came to that, if we needed another hearing for Planning Commission. Is that fair?
That would be fair because I believe that's the last regular city council meeting prior to April 4th.
Okay. I'll pause there, yield my time.
Okay, are there any other questions for either the fire marshal or the applicant?
Oh, yeah, I have one. Yeah, I'm looking at the CEQA exemption memo, and it says to accommodate the design of the project received approval of alternative means or methods from the fire department to reduce the 30-foot setback from adjacent buildings. Is there a document that says what those mitigation measures were? Do we have it in front of us?
There was an approved alternative means and methods request, and Brad can speak to the specifics of that, but it does outline how they were able to meet all of those requirements.
Okay, so that's in our packet, right?
That's not included within the packet, but it can be provided.
So why do we not see it? I mean, it seems pretty important. I mean, why was it not included?
It just wasn't included, unfortunately, but I definitely can hand that over to you.
Right, but we're supposed to vote on this tonight, right? Okay, thank you.
It is in the packet, in the plan set.
Yeah, I thought there was the page in the restricted plan set, but I don't know if that's the same thing as what you're referring to.
That's the same information. It just wasn't included in the agenda packet as a separate
But it is
attachment.
part of the plan set. So the information is there.
So the public did not see it then, right? Okay.
You have to flip it up.
Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, this is a summary of the measures we've been describing. It's in the plan set. I think that was posted on the city website.
Can't read that small print here anyway, so that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, Commissioner Linscott?
Okay, the trail that you have offered, could that be considered a secondary evacuation route?
Not really. I mean, that is a pedestrian bicycle access to the trail. And we're not really offering it. I think what happened is in some of our meetings with the neighborhood, there were several people that expressed interest. It's not an objective standard by the city to provide it. It's not part of the plans. They said, can you please talk to staff to see whether there's interest? They had interest. We said, sure, we'll have that discussion. We talked with staff. Staff said, if you want, draw an exhibit, show us what you think could be done. We do the exhibit. We worked with staff, and at all times we're neutral on this. We're not advocating for it, and we're not saying no. We're just saying if the city chooses to have that connectivity, we're more than happy to include it in our plan sets. We would need to get reimbursed for the cost. Staff said, well, we need to know what the cost is, so we went out there and did some initial bids, and the dollar amounts in there. So that's really for bicycle and pedestrian access, not any other. It's not really for an evacuation.
No, I understand it's not for evacuation, and I know it doesn't legally qualify as evacuation, but I did look up, what qualifies as an evacuation route, and a secondary evacuation route can be a pedestrian route. So it could be used as an evacuation route, even though it doesn't, it's not legally required or qualified as such. Is that correct?
I can't.
Okay. No, I
honestly,
get it.
I can't say it's
Sure.
because there needs to be set standards for it to be called
I
that.
get it.
But again, we're open to whatever the city decides that they want to do with that.
Okay, awesome. Second question. So looking at the plans, right? Would you be open to the 5 houses that are on the south side, not necessarily the end one, but the other 5, making those 2-story homes?
Sure. So we've had long discussions. The neighbors have, every time we've met, asked for that, and we understand why they're asking for it. Frankly, the project with a 20% affordable housing needs to be subsidized with a certain amount of square footage to make the project feasible. If it could be feasible without reducing the size to 2 stories, we would have done that. We looked at it many times. We're not able to do that. So they do need to stay as 3 stories.
Even if you reduce some of the BMRs above on the north side?
You mean if we didn't have BMR units?
Well, if you basically just shifted the count of BMRs from the north side to maybe doing a row of BMRs on the south edge.
It doesn't change the pro forma for the project.
I'm sorry, why doesn't it? You're moving BMRs, right?
Yeah, by moving the BMRs from one location of the site to another, it won't change. You're still going to have to provide, the BMRs are like, I believe, around 500,000 or so. You're still going to have to provide the BMR units, the number of the BMR units. So that doesn't change the equation for the feasibility of the project.
So I guess I'm not sure I understand that. So if you still provide the same number of BMRs, right?
Okay.
But instead of having some of them on the north side or kind of northish side, right, in the middle there, if you put a row of them on the south edge and make them, even less expensive BMRs, because now you go to 2-story, right? We've had a development or a couple of developments that we've talked to where they have agreed to that because they said that it actually benefits them to have a mix of different price, for the units that they're offering. It's not a lot. It's 5. You guys are doing a lot of building in our area. You're going to be a partner with us in our city for many decades to come. Is this something that you would be willing to consider as a good faith to show your relationship with the city long term?
Yeah. So the BMR units, you're going to wind up with 1 and 2 bedroom BMR units.
That's fine.
Yeah, so first,
There is a demand for that too.
Yeah, potentially yes. You're substantially dropping the price of the BMR units when you remove bedrooms. So now you go from a $500,000 BMR unit to potentially a $250,000 BMR unit. Bedroom counts do matter on how BMRs get priced. Mm-hmm. We have looked whether you can reduce the bedroom count and what impact that would have on the financial feasibility of the project. It still has a huge impact. So just going to a 2-bedroom BMR unit, mm-hmm. even though the square footage is less, the sales price drops so substantially. Even with 5 units, you're still going to have a head on a project that's not feasible. So I understand the ask. We've looked at many different ways. What can we do with the BMRs and what can we do with the site to see if we can reduce the square footage on the for sale side. By removing the square footage on the for sale side, because the for sale market rate sales price is so much more than the BMR, so every square footage that you remove from the for sale side has a much bigger impact than what you're doing.
So the other option would be you keep your BMR at 3 stories like you have right now, but the BMR units, if I understand correctly, are 17 feet wide instead of the 21 feet wide that your regular units are, right? So that would give another 4 feet of buffer space. If you put BMR units on the south edge, would you be willing to do that?
So I think that was a question that we were asked earlier. We did look at it. You can't fit those. If you move a BMR unit that's smaller to the other side and you move the 2-car garage to the other side of the cul-de-sac, they won't fit. And Steve can probably address that better than I can, but we've looked at whether you can flip it. You won't be able to put the 2-car garage on the other side and still make the setbacks because of the amount of width that you're adding.
Right, so this is the exact scenario that I had gone through with the developer, and thank you for entertaining my many scenarios that I've asked you. As I mentioned in our conversation, the north side setback next to the tennis courts is less critical to the community. It's not facing anybody's home. And so, if we were to do that swap of the smaller unit on the north with the larger unit on the south and eat into the setback that's next to the tennis court, there's no loss of money in this project for you. So I think that's what we're both asking is, can this be done?
Through the chair, if I may comment on that, I believe there are units on the northern side, which is one of the member of the public there. And I also believe, having used the Cupertino Hills Swim and Racket, thanks to some of the members of the public here, I use the facility. There is a swimming pool there, and there's a number of members of the community that regularly use the swimming pool. So there is, in fact, a privacy issue on the northern side because those homes will be looking right into the swimming pool, and the community is going to be in the swimming pool there. So
that's one component of it. I would also say by putting the 2-story house, you're going to reduce. So that setback that we have on both sides also have all of the bioretention areas. You can't reduce it down to the 4 foot or the 5 foot that you're looking for because the bioretention has to stay on both sides of the project. Because
I wasn't trying to reduce the setback.
But it will, if you introduce it, I've looked at it. That's because we've been asked that question by not only planning commissioners, but also neighbors. If you move the side-by-side garage to the other side and bring the tandem to this side, the amount of setback that you'll have on the side-by-side garage where it's been added, it reduces the setback to the fence to a point where you can't use that as the bioretention that you need for that portion of the site. So you're reducing it so much where it's not just that you're reducing it from 10 feet to 4 feet or 5 feet. You're removing the ability to do that bioretention on that side yard. So it's hard to try to explain the engineering-wise what the impact is, but we have looked at it. It was a good suggestion the first time that we got it, and we looked at it, and it couldn't flip the units.
Through the
Obviously,
chair,
that's the
if
easier
I may.
answer.
Yes.
Question to staff. If this property or project were to add an ADU, what is the setback for ADUs?
You can go to 4 feet of a property line.
Okay. And so if this project were to do 20 DU per acre using a combination of single-family home and ADUs, is that considered a down zone for R3TH?
I'm going to stick to the project we have at hand tonight on the agenda.
Yes, I'm trying to walk through the members of the public's questions that we had, just for completeness of the hearing. There is, maybe let me rephrase the question. State law prohibits downzoning, is that correct?
State law prohibits downzoning if there's not a simultaneous upzoning somewhere else.
A simultaneous upzoning would mean applicant has to agree to a downzone on a vested application, is that correct?
That would be the other complication here, though, is they have a vested application.
Okay.
So that locks the standards in at the time the application was submitted.
So just to clarify here, we have a state law that prohibits downzoning unless you do a upzoning at the same time at another location, which would still require the current parcel owner and applicant to consent to that. Is that fair?
Yes, given that there's an existing vested application, yes.
Would the applicant care to comment on any constraints you might have in doing that, or is that something that you considered?
Yeah, at this point, the property owner or SummerHill are not entertaining changing the project as proposed.
Is that a decision the applicant makes, or is that a decision the parcel owner makes?
At this point, both the property owner and SummerHill are not changing the proposed project as it's been submitted. So I think your question is, would we consider doing that? And now, no, we're not considering changing what we have proposed.
Okay, thank you. And a final question on the units here. So do ADUs count as units?
Depends how you look at it. We get credit for them when they're built as counting towards our arena, but they don't count towards the density of a project.
I see. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's an important clarification. Thank you.
Sorry, City Attorney, as we approach 11, do we need to have a vote to extend, or does it matter?
Yeah, that was a good question. The rules for the council procedure manual don't apply here, so it's up to your discretion. But given the layout, perhaps we want to put a cap on time at this point for each of the commissioners.
Yes. So quick questions left from anybody. Vice Chair.
One quick question, because I recall the developers using a waiver or concession to make the BMR units different than the market rate, which is fine. But then when the staff mentioned the BMR units are comparable to the market rate units. So I just wonder which of those statements is true.
Right, so the concession is actually for a mix of types. Usually we would ask, because this has 4 different types of units being proposed, that the BMR units be each of the 4. They are providing just one type of unit, one design, one layout, basically. But the sizes of the units are comparable, and that's what we're comparing through that statement.
Because I thought they said the BMR units were smaller, so I must.
They are smaller, but we're still within the, again, comparable is kind of
Okay, so
subjective term.
comparable.
Yeah.
They're comparable but smaller.
Right.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Quick question through the chair. So I'm looking at the table on page 18, I think, of the staff report. Is it correct that this further reduces our lower income units by 31 plus 8, 39?
Yes, if you're looking at what the housing element anticipated, the estimate was 84 total units, and let me look what we had. 31 low and 18 moderate
How do we arrive at those projections? Because I'm assuming the applicant had a preliminary app that was about ready to go, given the May zoning versus October preliminary application. How did their projections get so far off?
No, these are worked out with staff and HCD, and this was well in advance. I don't know when we finally landed on those numbers, but 2023, 2024 sometime.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? All right, the public hearing is actually closed now.